Jimmy Amabile disappeared 19 years ago, and today we can gladly say his family has closure. It's a missing person case that baffled law enforcement, led to conspiracy theories, and family hopes that he'd simply just run off and started a new life, hoping one day he'd return. Well, James Amabile is now home, and his discovery is going to have you scratching your head. Welcome to the weekly crime recap on Profiling Evil. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike King, and I've spent the last 40 years examining criminal and missing person cases around the world. This YouTube channel is dedicated to looking at true crime cases with a little different perspective. Now, I want to start out by calling out and congratulating a Florida sheriff who went after lawyers who suggested his officers acted out of line. As we get going, I hope you'll take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and join the Profiling Evil family. If you're already a subscriber, thanks for coming back and thanks for all your support. Now, here's the case in Florida. Sheriff's deputies were participating in a training exercise near a Target store. It, that was about the time one of the deputies felt his spidey senses kicking into gear. He saw several 20-year something old men and a vehicle that they were driving coming into the parking lot. The deputy noticed that the vehicle backed into a handicap stall. And when he looked at the plate, he realized that the plate had been covered up with paper. Now, things got really dicey when he saw two of the passengers get out of the vehicle wearing ski masks. He watched as they pulled their sweatshirts down over their foreheads and they went into the store. Well, they immediately notified store security to start watching them, and store security confirmed that they were stealing items from within the store. Now, one passenger, the driver, remained in the black Audi. And again, think about this. It's a black, really nice Audi backed into a parking stall with paper over the license plate so that the number couldn't be read. Now, in police terms, this is probable cause. And it's also a kind of an itchy thing that says something bad's about to happen. Well, again, they notified Target security and loss prevention officers who watched them stealing things and then leave without paying. Knowing that a crime had occurred and realizing that a uniformed patrol car was still minutes away, deputies sprang into action using their own vehicles, many of which had red and blue police lights flashing. They were all in unmarked cars, but they had flashing red and blue police lights. They pulled in front of the suspect vehicle to block the crooks in. When the deputies exited their vehicles with their weapons drawn, shouting commands to put their hands up and comply with arrest, another really important thing happened. You're going to see it here in a second. Almost all of the detectives were wearing bulletproof vests with the word sheriff in 4-inch tall lettering across the front and the back. They were shouting things like stop, sheriff's office, stop, identifying themselves as police officers. Well, the driver, later identified as 20-year-old Jaden Baez, didn't comply and he stomped on the gas of the Audi, ramming his car into the sheriff's deputy cars, damaging 4 vehicles. And here's the scary part, folks, narrowly missing one of the detectives who had to jump out of the way to avoid being struck. Let's watch this video. What you can't see here is the passengers in the vehicle were brandishing a firearm and a gun battle ensued. Now, this is a good time to ask a couple of questions, in my opinion. Number one, what on earth are 20-year-old kids doing running around with a dangerous weapon? Number two, why are these kids driving around in an expensive sports car with the license plate covered up? Has nothing to do with the fact that it's a nice sports car. Has to do with everything with this car being concealed, the identity of it. Then number three, why are they brazenly stealing from a business? It was clear that it was something that was planned, evident by the plate being covered, the getaway driver, the face masks, and the hoodies. And most importantly, number four, why didn't they just comply with police? Well, instead, they brandished and probably fired a dangerous weapon at police because all we know is that a gun battle ensued. They clearly turned their vehicle into a dangerous weapon, though, and they rammed police in an attempt to get away. As deputies pulled the driver from the vehicle, he dropped a gold handgun that had an extended magazine. That's a high capacity magazine built to spread a lot of bullets. Well, as you saw in the video, the entire arrest was captured on the parking lot security cameras, but that didn't stop an attorney who represents the gun wielding Baez and his client buddies from saying that they're the victims in the case. He said they didn't even know the people blocking them in were police officers. Keep in mind, the suspect who had the weapon was previously arrested for burglary with assault and battery. He'd been previously arrested for giving a false name while under arrest, for escape from a facility or in transport battery, and for violating probation. All three suspects in the car were struck by gunfire, but Baez sadly died. Now, their attorney is preparing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the sheriff's office for what they say is unwarranted, illegal, and unjustified shooting. The lawyer is asking questions like, quote, what sane department would not step in, arrest the boys, or tell the boys, put it back, close quote. Well, I have a few questions of my own, like, why should a police officer ask anything of a suspect who's trying to run him over or point a gun at him after they've committed a crime? The attorney went on and said, quote, what happened here is that the officers let the boys leave the store and let them get into a vehicle. This forces a fight or flight situation. This is endangering the public right there, close quote. Well, my question for that attorney, and frankly for each of you, would be what kind of a threat to the public would exist if the officers had attempted to stop the suspects in a store filled with innocent bystanders? Especially if, like we learned, one of the alleged suspects had a weapon and was going to try to use it to get away. More innocent lives could be put at risk. So don't forget, folks, there's another important thing here, and I've said it a couple of times. These suspects hid the license plate on the vehicle that they're driving. They backed into a handicap stall outside the store's entry while they put on ski masks, pulled hoodies over their faces, and went inside and committed theft. This isn't a group of misspent youth. They had a getaway driver waiting for them. The getaway driver was also allegedly packing an illegally concealed firearm. What would have happened if these deputies had allowed the suspects to leave the store, get into their car? I mean, they don't know if the Audi's stolen or not. Remember, the suspects concealed their identity. Do you simply allow a felonious auto thief to leave the area if, in fact, the vehicle's stolen? They don't know because the plate's covered. What would have happened if the suspects fled and a high speed chase ensued, resulting in a collision that took the life of yet another innocent bystander? Well, as you can tell, I have some really strong feelings about this case, and I'm complimenting the Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez and the deputies who were involved in this incident for not rolling over and not allowing the lawyer to misinform the public further to demonize the police. But I want to know what your thoughts are on this case. Do you think the deputies were out of line? Put your answers down below and answer each other. Talk a little bit among you. But for now, let's talk about an amazing case that we worked with the Adventures with Purpose team on in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania last month. It's the case of James Edward Amabile. James Amabile, his friends called him Jimmy, and I came to know him pretty darn well in this investigation. And after talking to his family, started calling him Jimmy myself. James Amabile, Jimmy, was one of six boys who grew up in the Philadelphia area. On December 4th, 2003, after he'd worked a graveyard shift at United Parcel Service, James did what he did every day. He slept during the day. His kids were at daycare. He woke up later than usual. In fact, it was 4:30, 30 minutes past the time that he was supposed to pick up his kids at the babysitter's home. He made a quick call to the caretaker and he told her that he had overslept and that he was on his way, but he never made it. In fact, what happened next remained a mystery for 19 years. Let's take a quick look at what I learned as I studied this case prior to the Adventures with Purpose team getting in the water and looking for Jimmy. His daily routine, pretty darn habitual. At 4 p.m., he'd walk out the door, get into his green 2002 Ford Explorer, and drive for 2 miles toward the southwest. You can see it here on this map as I'm talking, all on well traveled roads. The drive usually took about 9 minutes to complete. But again, Jimmy never showed up, and later investigation would uncover that he left his home in what appeared to be a hurry. Now, we know that he was startled, woke up quickly, and ran out the door after calling the babysitter. He left without his wallet, his insulin, or his mobile phone. Forensically, I learned that the last place Jimmy's phone was pinged was on a cell tower that happened to be just behind police headquarters and near his home. You can get more detailed information on my investigation into this case by visiting Adventures with Purpose and watching the first video in the James Amabile case where I lay out the case. But after countless hours of investigation and analysis, I spoke with Jimmy's nephew, his aunt, and his brother about the case, and I learned more about Jimmy. And the most important thing I learned was Jimmy was diabetic. He had a diabetic health condition. And the more I learned, the more I leaned toward his disappearance being an accident. Now, when you watch my podcast on AWP, you're going to see there's some real compelling theories surrounding whether he was murdered or not. And I'm going to let you explore those on AWP. But in the end, I found myself recommending the team consider whether Jimmy may have taken a left hand turn much sooner than normal. In fact, I theorized, and as we look on this map, I want you to kind of play this out in your mind. His phone again was pinged in this area. This is the multi-directional tower that was there at the time, indicating where his signal was picked up, somewhere inside of this circle. Now, only makes sense that it was at his house. He woke up, he made the phone call, threw his phone down, jumped in the car without thinking, and took off. Every single day, he would drive southwest, turning left before he went into the babysitter's house. Just thinking out loud, what if Jimmy took a left-hand turn much sooner than normal? Now think about it. He, if it's true, is a little bit compromised mentally based on his diabetes and the stress of waking up late. May have been just that he was groggy and not thinking well. But if he had made this left turn more quickly, is it possible that he could have just driven straight down to the south and into Ridley Creek? It's a creek that joins the Delaware River. When I looked at older aerial imagery, it seemed that there was an old boat ramp and he could have driven right down that boat ramp and into the water. Now it's covered with a brand new marina, and you'd never suspect to find him there. But the question I had is this a place where Jimmy could have accidentally driven? What was clear to me was that Doug Bishop of Adventures with Purpose and the entire team would need to visually inspect the area of concern and determine if it's possible that he ended up in the water there. If so, he'd then need to jump in the water and do what Adventures with Purpose does best. And boy, oh boy, did they. Within a short amount of time of getting in the water, Doug spotted something at the bottom of the river that really captured his attention. After closer inspection, he determined that it was in fact a vehicle, and he was, as he says on the video, 100% sure that it's an SUV. Now that's pretty darn good. Now, was it possible that he discovered Jimmy Amabile's vehicle after 19 years? Let's watch this little clip.
Oh, what is that? 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 Wow, that looks like a vehicle, Carson. Watch this as we come back over it. Is it a boat? Looks like the top of a vehicle that's been in there for quite some time. Coming up over, look at it, look at it, look at it. Look at it on live scope. What is that? What is that? You're talking about 5 feet deep. See that? See that? What is that? Switch the live scope. We need to be, this is really dull over here. I'm gonna go back over it. Is live scope showing up good on your screen? No, it is. We can dive right off the edge of this dock too as well, if we need to. It's coming up right on the edge of this pylon right behind you. You should be entering the screen right now, Carson.
Yeah.
You see that? What is that?
Dude,
Hold on, look at that. Is that a Ford Explorer? That is an SUV. That is 100% an SUV.
holy smokes. For me, this was the #1 location.
This made the
Absolutely.
most sense.
It's right on the other side of this column.
Dude, we're right over it, bro.
How tall is that? So we're at 25 feet, about 5 feet tall. What in the world is that? Those look like windows, don't they? The front end is silted in. You see the rear wheel well?
Ford Explorer.
We all know what a Ford Explorer looks like.
Soon, Doug was suited up and he jumped into the water. And sure enough, AWP and the team located Jimmy Amabile's vehicle. Now, get this. It was nailed to the floor of the river when later construction led to driving a pier right through the front hood of the car, pinning it to the ground. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? Well, after several days of discussion, a crew responded and the pier was cut and they freed Jimmy Amabile's vehicle and his body from that watery grave. Let's watch as Jimmy's vehicle is pulled from the water.
This is by far the most complex recovery that we've ever done here at Adventures with Purpose.
Is that pylon's in there? Rotating that wedge.
All right, now, little by little. This ladder doesn't move.
Who went missing back in 2003. Divers with the group Adventures with a Purpose found that vehicle, and police say the discovery could be closure for Amabile's family.
Well, it was an honor to play a small part in bringing Jimmy Amabile home. I hope you'll go over to Adventures with Purpose, watch my full video on the investigation, and then the videos of going out and discovering and bringing Jimmy's vehicle off the bottom of the river. I want to thank Jared Lysick, Doug Bishop, and the entire Adventures with Purpose team for the chance that Profiling Evil has to participate in these cases with them. You know, we've done about 24 so far. It's been really an honor to work alongside them. I hope you'll go over to Adventures with Purpose and subscribe to their channel. That way you're going to get all the updates as they do these, because we're going to be doing this a whole lot more. In fact, we got 20 cases sitting on the books that are going to be coming out in the coming weeks and months. So please make sure you've subscribed over at Adventures with Purpose. Now, as we wrap up this week's crime report, we got to go back to Martha's Vineyard and a small community where the show Jaws was filmed nearly 50 years ago. If you're like me, you can't hear that theme song without having this creepy feeling running up and down your spine. And if you're like me, the first time you got in the ocean after watching that, you were just a little bit skittish. Well, the little town in Martha's Vineyard has just hired a brand new police chief. And why is that important to profiling evil? Well, it's because the police chief just happens to be a fellow named Jonathan Searle. Jonathan Searle, as you might remember, was one of the actors in the original Jaws film. In fact, he's the little boy with his brother who get their snorkels and they build a fake shark fin and swim it alongside the beach, causing this huge panic. Let's watch a clip of the film.
Well, nearly 50 years after appearing in Jaws, the boy in the fake shark scene is now the police chief of Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard. Jonathan Searle was appointed to the position this week by the town. Searle and his brother memorably played the two pranksters with a cardboard fin in the 1975 classic that causes a beach panic. He is a native of Martha's Vineyard.
Well, from all of us at Profiling Evil, congratulations, Chief. I'm grateful that you chose the noble career of policing, even though you probably had a chance at doing acting. Thanks again and congratulations. Well, if you've enjoyed today's version of the Crime Report, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button, ring the bell so that you get all the notifications on videos like this one. We really appreciate you joining the Profiling Evil family. And if it's something you can do, consider joining our channel memberships. That way you can give us a little more support financially. But for those of you who can't afford it, don't worry about it. We love having you here. Those who can, the extra that you give really helps us continue to provide quality content and do the things that we've tried to do over the last couple of years. Now, if you like podcasts, look for us on your favorite podcast platform. This year, we're focusing on a series we call Cults Among Us. And we've been looking at groups like Heaven's Gate, The Family, or NXIVM. I think you'd really enjoy it. So thanks again, folks, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.